to the really hard stuff. And that is this, sense among some investors, among those who talk about this space, that we're in some kind of bubble, that there's an AI bubble out there, and that translates into the real estate bubble.
Sure. So just by way of background, today we support north of 5,000 customers in 50 metropolitan areas on 6 continents. Digital Realty has solely been focused on data centers, connectivity, digital infrastructure for close to 25 years and north of 20 years as the first public data center REIT. That's where my interaction with the company really started, literally second job out of school. We are in data centers catering to diverse demand trends, so digital transformation, cloud computing, and now what I would call the very earliest days of artificial intelligence. Super more oriented towards training, building the models, getting the technology built, and very more consumer oriented. Now, I can't tell you whether our end customers, who are the likes of Nvidia and the hyperscale cloud companies, will go up and down in this, quote, arms race of the technology. But as it relates to data centers and very much digital realty in our strategy.
And the real estate.
And the bricks and sticks and physical infrastructure we invest in, I see tremendous insulation towards any types of shock. We are essentially in a place where demand is well outpacing supply. So the speculative data center builds you can't build it fast enough for the customers. Many customers, high credit quality customers, are signing long-term contracts, 15-year leases for that capacity with urgency.
If 2025 taught us anything, it was that the only thing that is constant is unpredictability. Consider Nvidia as an example. Before uncertainty slowed its growth last year, the chipmaker had explosive advances for 2 years in a row. The company faced a long list of difficulties in 2025, but investors scaled a wall of concern that originally caused the stock to drop 37%. However, according to statistics from S&P Global Market Intelligence, the stock surged 38.9% to end the year, more than doubling the S&P 500's 16.4% gains. Let's examine the factors that contributed to the stock's 2025 increase and the reasons why there may be more to come in the upcoming year. Since Nvidia had achieved consecutive years of triple-digit growth driven by the demand for artificial intelligence, AI, the bar was set high for the company last year. Some investors were anxious despite the fact that a slowdown in its growth was anticipated. Furthermore, although those worries were unjustified, others were worried that the release of DeepSeek's R1 reasoning model might lessen demand for Nvidia's AI-centric graphics processing units, GPUs. Although the prospect of higher pricing was heightened by the widespread imposition of import taxes, investors eventually adopted a wait-and-see strategy. The largest obstacle was probably the prohibition on selling AI chips to Chinese consumers. Nvidia started exporting its H20 AI chips in 2024 after designing them to comply with stringent export regulations. Uncertainty was increased, though, when the Trump administration prohibited the sale of these chips to China at the beginning of 2025. The anticipated decline in demand brought on by DeepSeek and tariffs never happened, and Nvidia kept up a steady growth in both revenue and profits. The company's fiscal 2026 third quarter ended on October 26th, saw record sales of $57 billion, up 62% year-over-year, and earnings per share EPS of $1.30, up 67%. Nvidia's forecast, which calls for Q4 revenue of $65 billion, or an 84% increase, indicates that the company's revenue growth will pick up speed. There are grounds for optimism that Nvidia can accomplish those ambitious objectives, some of which may even out to be conservative. During his keynote speech at CES last week, CEO Jensen Huang unexpectedly revealed that Nvidia's revolutionary Vera Rubin, the company's next-generation AI processors, were already in full production 6 months ahead of schedule. More significantly, Huang claimed that Rubin would cost 90% less to infer than its existing Blackwell chip. Furthermore, Nvidia's prior revenue projection of $500 billion by the end of 2026 was deemed excessively conservative by CFO Colette Kress, who also stated that the company would definitely exceed its earlier estimate. Lastly, allegations surfaced that Chinese regulators are about to approve imports of Nvidia's H200 chips for specific Chinese customers. following the Trump administration's reversal of direction late last year. Government, military, and other sensitive uses will not be allowed, although Nvidia may benefit from this. Chip sales to China might reach $50 billion a year, according to Huang's earlier estimates. Nvidia continued to develop quickly last year, defying critics, and 2026 might be even better. Additionally, the stock is reasonably valued at less than 25 times the anticipated earnings for the upcoming year. A representative for the American chipmaker stated in a statement to Reuters on Tuesday that Nvidia does not demand upfront payment for H200 processors. In reaction to a January 8 Reuters story regarding the company imposing exceptionally strict terms requiring full upfront payment from Chinese clients wanting its artificial intelligence chips, the corporation stated that it would never ask consumers to pay for things they do not receive. According to a person who spoke to Reuters, Nvidia's typical terms for Chinese clients used to contain prior payment requirements, but occasionally they were permitted to make a deposit instead of paying in full upfront. Join our investor community. Hit subscribe and like to get your daily Nvidia stock insights and tutorials delivered. However, given the uncertainty surrounding whether Chinese officials would approve the shipments, the corporation has been especially stringent in enforcing criteria for the H200, the individual continued. A payment arrangement like this for the H200 would essentially shift financial risk from Nvidia to its clients, who would have to invest money without knowing if Beijing would sanction the chip imports or if they could implement the technology as intended. At the moment, Nvidia's market value is $4.5 trillion. It would need a 56% increase in stock price for it to reach $7 trillion in 2026. Nvidia should be at the top of every investor's shopping list if it really has a chance to become a $7 trillion corporation in 2026. Any stock that increases that quickly in a year is worth investing in. Although a few things need to happen, I believe Nvidia can accomplish this ambitious objective in 2026. Nvidia will undoubtedly be a top stock to own this year if these events materialize. In 2025, AI hyperscalers invested a record amount of money in building data centers. All of them have warned investors that spending will rise in 2026 as well. For Nvidia, this is significant because its graphics processing units, GPUs, are the industry standard for training and executing AI models. Not only are Nvidia's GPUs the best on the market, but its connecting infrastructure and controlling software are also excellent. Because of this, Nvidia is the preferred provider for data center equipment. However, there is a problem. Nvidia's cloud GPU capacity has completely sold out. Nvidia has already taken a number of actions to optimize its output, but it still needs to grow its capacity to satisfy this extraordinary demand. In 2026, Nvidia intends to drastically cut its gaming GPU output. This action will free up chips for use in the more lucrative and popular cloud GPUs. Second, Nvidia is pressuring Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, its chip supplier, to boost production. As a result, Nvidia will have more supply and be able to boost manufacturing to satisfy the enormous market demand for its processors. Both of these goals, in my opinion, can be accomplished by 2026, allowing Nvidia to continue growing quickly. Wall Street analysts predict a 50% increase in Nvidia's revenue for the fiscal year 2027, which ends in January 2027. Since analysts have continuously understated Nvidia's potential for growth, I wouldn't be shocked if the real number is higher. Additionally, China is a little-known element that can increase Nvidia's sales even more. It looks like Nvidia is ready to start selling chips to China again. While Nvidia has roughly 700,000 H200 processors on hand, Reuters reports that there is a demand for roughly 2 million units. If these first shipments are successful, there may be even greater demand, which might accelerate Nvidia's growth pace this year. With all of this, Nvidia might have a $7 trillion firm if all goes according to plan. We must assume the following in order for Nvidia to reach a $7 trillion market valuation. The profit margins for Nvidia stay the same. Nvidia achieves the 50% growth predicted by analysts. The value of Nvidia remains unchanged. It is anticipated that funding on AI will continue in 2027. At Nvidia's current 53% profit margin, the average Wall Street analyst expects $320 billion in revenue for fiscal year 2027, translating into $170 billion in profits by the conclusion of the fiscal year. With a price-to-earnings ratio of 46 at the moment, Nvidia is actually less expensive than it has been in recent years. The stock would be worth $7.8 trillion, with $320 billion in profits at a PE ratio of 46. If that happens, investors would make a huge profit, and this prediction doesn't include many irrational assumptions, which gives me even more confidence. But by the end of 2027, there must also be indications of growth. If not, Nvidia's stock would fall in expectation of a downturn in demand. Numerous forecasts suggest that AI expenditures will keep rising until 2030, which makes Nvidia an obvious choice for stock purchases today. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your input helps create a more knowledgeable community where we can all learn and grow together in the world of investing. Stay up to date with the latest market trends, insights, and key updates by subscribing to Investing Tutorial. We're here to help you make smarter investment decisions and stay ahead of the curve.
We start talking about AI, though. Here is a fundamental thing, and I am not a techie. I absolutely admit that. But AI is designed to make everything more efficient, and that includes AI, right? So there's this argument that folks are making that say if AI chips are getting much more powerful, in fact, we've just seen announcements that we're getting more and more powerful chips, and they become more efficient, and they therefore need less space, as in less real estate. What happens then that you've built all these data centers and suddenly you don't need that much space? And it's like vacancies in housing.
So we've been living in this, call it the Moore's Law phenomenon for eons, right? My path to the company was over 20 years ago. On the IPO of the company, it was my second job out of school, building the model, fetching the coffee, barely got this REIT IPO that is investing in technology and telecommunications over the finish line, multiple dollars below the pricing range. Nobody knew the customers, and everyone said at every meeting, why is this not going to shrink like the phones shrunk? Like they went smaller and smaller and smaller. And what's happened historically, and what I see continuing, is Moore's Law is happening. Things are innovating, getting smaller. And that's the definition of Moore's Law for those who don't know. Yeah, more technology called reinvents itself, essentially gets cheaper, smaller, more efficient. And then there's other thing called Jevons paradox. So the simple thing about this is the simple, like going back to the advent of called using locomotives. Oh, that's going to call change. We're not going to need horse and buggies and things like that. Well, that opened up all this different called transit for goods and people. And each technology called spurred another technology. So it made it bigger. Yeah, and what's germane to our space? So we're living in, I live in Austin, Texas now. So Waymo is a real thing. I've used it several times. That is being built on the back of Uber, which really Uber, I was trying to think last night when my first Uber ride was. It's probably 10, 11 years ago, not even. And Uber was built on the backs of Google Maps, right? And Google Maps was built on the back of other telecommunications infrastructure investment. Each one step along the way, more need for infrastructure to support compute, networking, essentially more investments in the actual bricks and sticks to essentially facilitate the new technology. So the efficiency argument doesn't hold water because you're more efficient, but you're creating new opportunities. Yeah, the efficiency argument's happening, but you're also, it's losing out to the new innovation that it's being built. Okay, so why is comparing data center stocks to Nvidia fundamentally flawed then, if you're talking about each thing creating something else? So we have an amazing seat in this called tremendous technological rollout, but we are doing it at a foundational level. We're building called the roads, the bridges. You could even extend that to the manufacturing facilities, to the hospitals, to the research, like the most called foundational things. And we're doing it in a called hard asset, long-lived, durable investment with places that they have to be, where there's real barriers to new supply, and then contracting for long times. So we are essentially, and we're doing it in the whole data center concept is about shared infrastructure. We typically have multiple customers. We're serving 5,000 different customers. Yes, the big hyperscalers are amongst our top customers in 30, 40, 50, 60 locations. But I could tour you through one of our data centers and says, there's one hyperscaler, there's another, there's an enterprise, there's a network company. And that shared environment means we're winning as technology wins, not one winner. So,
but that's digital realty. That's your business model. When we talk about the greater landscape of hyperscalers perhaps owning some of their real estate, although they only own about 50% of it, I'm told, and then you have investors getting into the rest of it, and I want to get to that in a second. So that's digital realty's model. What about the rest of the world?
Listen, I can't tell you whether we're in an AI bubble and whether Nvidia is going to be the kingmaker forever or others will rise up. My suspicion is you'll have many winners in this, and it won't be one winner takes all.
No losers?
Listen, I'm sure there'll be losers, but the degree of losing, I think, will be not something that actually ripples all the way through to the broader data center business, and is certainly not our business at Digital Realty. So, because we're catering to all of them in places they need to be. And if a $1 trillion company becomes a $500 million or $500 billion company, that's a sad thing for that one investment in that stock, which may happen, but someone else may pick up those remains and be victors. And we're that foundational infrastructure here, and how we play it is an incrementally secure way, given the diversification, location, sensitive.